Appreciate it.
We're good. We're good.
It's not part-time.
Okay, it's 6:03. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get started with the agenda, Mr. Markosian, would you
Good.
like to take a minute?
I wanted to acknowledge the loss of a beloved member of our Ellsworth School District community, Robert Owen James Jr., better known to all of us who knew him and loved him as Jimmy James, passed away Saturday at his home after a long battle with cancer. Jimmy worked for many years for Bangor Hydro, and then after that for 30 years, then he worked for his best friend Bud Morse at Wincombe Line Construction. After he retired from those careers, he came to work for us as a van driver, helping to get special ed kids from home to school. And he made a lot of friends here in our school system. He was a caring, compassionate man who, every time he came into a room, you knew it because his voice boomed out across the room, and he always had good things to say about everybody and to everybody. I knew him as a friend as well. He loved going to HCTC on Wednesdays for the Brookside Cafe that was put on by the culinary department there, and we made quite a few visits there over the years for their lunch. He would always he'd come in to see me at work, and he'd say, "Paul, what do I got on the menu?" And I'd look it up on my phone, and I said, Jimmy, you could look it up on your phone. He's like, "No, I can't." Jimmy didn't even text. I texted him once, and then he didn't answer. And next time I saw him, I said, "Jimmy, you never answered my text." He said, "I don't text." You better call me if you want to talk to me. So I was shocked and deeply saddened by this news, and I wanted to share it with everyone else, make sure everyone knew, and ask you all to please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So we only have one item on our agenda tonight, and that is the consideration of the new CDC COVID guidelines on masking. As I'm sure you are all aware, this fall, the board made a motion to follow the CDC guidelines regarding masking. And as I'm sure you are also all aware, yesterday, the Maine CDC and the Department of Ed announced an update to their masking recommendations, and universal masking is no longer a recommendation. Therefore, based on the motion that we took this fall, optional masking would automatically go into effect on March 9th, on next Wednesday. I think the conversation tonight is to discuss possibly starting optional masking prior to Wednesday. Mrs. Kane, is there anything you would like to add?
I think it would be great to add the newest information that came out a
Yes.
few minutes ago regarding Hancock County.
Yes. Hallelujah, we are yellow. We are no longer red. So that is great news. So I think that I would like to start by opening up to the board a discussion regarding when to start making masks optional instead of mandatory. Anyone like to start?
So, well, you'll get a chance, honey, I promise. I think that, for me, it would be really incredible after the couple of years that we've had for, I know that maybe taking them off first thing tomorrow morning might be a little hasty for planning for the school, but I would love to see something and put into effect so that when the basketball team comes back to the gym tomorrow after their playoff game, that they would be able to celebrate without masks, and their family members would be able to see their smiles and see them celebrate without masks.
So let me just correct you. You mean when they come back home with their gold ball?
Exactly. When they come back to celebrate their gold ball,
Yep.
that they would be able to do it without masks.
I think when we made these rules, I was under the impression that as soon as we were out of the red, it was going to be optional. That's what I remember talking about. We are out of the red now. If people have been really tracking it, our numbers have been falling. So I know some people had expressed concern about being taken off guard, by this. Being taken by surprise, but I don't see how you could be taken by surprise when you've seen the numbers go down. And if anybody's been tracking other forms of information, we don't have anybody in any of the hospitals around here with COVID hospitalized right now. Nobody in Ellsworth, from what we can figure out, no one in Blue Hill or MDI either. So with no one even in the hospital for it, that's a huge indication that, our transmission is low. The transmission is low because I think we've reached that saturation point. When you look at the other CDC maps, we took the vaccination map, we're, one of the highest, per capita vaccinated in the country. Like and I hate to say it, but almost everybody who hasn't been vaccinated, and even those who have, then you have almost everybody else who has at least been exposed. So you have some antibodies within your body. I mean, yes, there's a few that haven't. But I believe we are at a point where we can keep people safe. And I believe that if we were to go maskless tomorrow, I think the conversation needs to be, how are we going to ensure that people who are at high risk are going to come to school with a mask and not be bullied, not feel separated, not feel singled out.
And I think that's why we need to wait a couple of days. I think going on March 9th, that gives teachers and nurses and parents time to prepare and have those conversations with their kids and with their classrooms. How are we going to manage this effectively? How are we going to get the signs changed? There are some kids who really are very literal and other kids who don't handle change well. They need time to prepare for that. And if there are signs up that say you need to wear a mask, some kids are going to be, I have one of my kids is going to be certainly having a hard time with that. I'm sure there are other kids too. There are a lot of kids who need a little bit of time to process a change, and a lot of adults who still need time to process change too. And we need to figure out a way to keep teachers who have health conditions safe. Like, how are we going to manage that? We need to talk about how we're going to help them feel safe.
Thank you, Tara. Mr. Marcosian, do you have any comments?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to offer just a correction to one thing Mrs. Miller said. We didn't, the last couple times we took action as a board was not to change our masking policy when we went from red to yellow or green, but rather to follow the guidelines of the main CDC. So when they change their guidelines, we wouldn't have to change ours because we would just make that shift automatically. We did at one time pass a motion to make masking optional. This was back in August, if we went to yellow or green, but then at a subsequent meeting, we voted to follow CDC guidelines, so, and recommendations. So under that operating policy, we would, as Kelly said at the beginning, we wouldn't have to take any action if we were going to just let it go optional on, we could just let it go optional on Wednesday as, as mandated by the state. So we're here tonight to see if we need to do it, if there's a reason to do it sooner. I think it's worth acknowledging both sides of this argument. It's been 2 years, and it's been a long 2 years, and we're all really over this, right? It's been hard. But Tara raised the point of giving people a few more days to prepare. We had the board received an email this morning from a parent of Ellsworth students who this parent teaches in another district, and they went from, you know, a board meeting where one evening they voted to go mask optional the very next day, and it caused some hardship in their school. I can read some things from her email. There needed to be time given to staff for a chance to talk with students, explain what's happening, and put new expectations in place. Parents also deserve some time to prep their kids, have conversations about their expectations, including processing with those kids who may be nervous about the transition. Because I think for as many kids who are going to be, and staff who are going to welcome this transition, and I'd like to think that everyone's going to welcome it at some level, but there are going to be those who are going to be feel uneasy about it. And we need to do what we can to help everyone make this transition the best way possible. She said our administrators were scrambling after the meeting to make sure everyone knew about the decision, sending out automated message and all that, emails and so forth. And she said that it also led to some behavioral issues during the day. Many kids struggle with change. There are instances of some kids being who chose to keep their mask on, who were bullied or ridiculed for that. So I think it's worth giving consideration to if we're gonna be mask optional by Wednesday, one way or the other. But I think it's worth giving consideration if we think we might want to change it sooner than that. It's not going to be a lot sooner because there's not that many days left till Wednesday. But how we do that and when is the appropriate time? And I don't have an answer or even a recommendation at this point. I'm here tonight to hear what others have to say. I'm looking forward to hearing from our administrators, from one of our school nurses, Joe Merrill, who's sitting in the back here, and from, I see members of the community here who I'm sure want to speak about this. So,
Yep. Thank you, Paul. Mr. Merrill, would you mind coming up and sharing your thoughts?
Thanks for having me. My name's Joe Merrill. I'm the school nurse over at the K-8 school. The school board asked the school nurses, Michelle Osborne at the high school, Jackie Sandone, and myself to meet earlier this week, just to review what our feelings were, what our thoughts were, and kind of give them a recommendation on what we thought. Some optimistic things that we pointed out, the numbers across the school in terms of COVID cases are much better. We've had a total of, I think, 5 now this week. So really, numbers have been going down every single week. As a couple of members of the school board mentioned, community numbers are way down, also very encouraging, as well as hospital numbers. We would recommend continuing following the CDC guidelines, more with the color coding. The only kind of difference from some of the previous meetings, and correct me if I haven't watched all of them, there was some mention way back in the fall about lumping in Penobscot County. We didn't think that that was appropriate at this time. Hospital numbers are now tied into that color coding system quite strongly. And as we know, Eastern Maine is up there. They draw from 2/3 of the state, and that could have an impact on their color code for people that don't live anywhere near Ellsworth. Pool testing is a question I get from some parents. With the current guidelines, and those are going to be updated again next Wednesday with the new rollout of stuff is our understanding. But as it currently stands, pool testing is not needed to allow a vaccinated student or somebody who's previously tested positive in the last 90 days to remain in school for any contact. And where we're not contact tracing in schools now, really the only time a pool testing would allow you to stay is if the most common thing would be a home contact. If you called me and said, I tested positive, my kid goes to school, what's that mean? Just common sense would tell you you're a close contact with your family, and then we would follow the usual quarantine guidelines. If you have any other questions, we've been getting a lot, feel free to reach out to myself, Michelle Osborne, or Jackie, and we'd be happy to clarify if you want to sign up or unenroll if you've been enrolled. We're happy to kind of discuss that with you. We would recommend keeping it at this time. The CDC and the DOE with the meeting that we had yesterday also recommended to keep it. It just allows you to kind of get a gauge on how your school's doing, your community's doing. You can pick up on some cases. It can be reassuring. And there's a lot of families, staff members that want to do that because they have at-risk family. They have their own health problems, and they just want kind of reassurance from week to week that they're safe to go and visit people. So I think that that's fair to offer. And it's, like I said, it's voluntary, so if you don't want to do it, that's okay. One of the bigger issues that probably needs to be discussed in some sense tonight, the current quarantine for a positive is 5 days. Even if we do optional masking, which I'm happy to hear, I'm in favor of going in that direction. The CDC still recommends mandatory masking for days 6 to 10. So how do we cover that piece? How do we address that for families and staff? How's that going to be addressed? We do want to remind people that even though thankfully we seem to be moving past the COVID and everything, sick people still need to stay home. If you're ill, you should stay home regardless of whether it's COVID or what it is, just to try to not spread it to your classmates or your faculty. We would, as nurses, we would like the ability to at least ask people that come to our office ill to put a mask on. It's not everybody. If you're coming to get your meds, I'm not going to ask you to put a mask on. But if you're coughing, sniffling, we would like that ability to at least ask to say, could you please put a mask on, just to help protect us so we're not missing school and we can be there for the kids. Lastly, we want to make sure that any students or faculty that want to wear a mask can be supported to do so. Students have already, or schools that have already gone optional, about 25 to 30% of the staff and students still wear a mask. So that's okay if they want to, and that's okay for the people that don't want to wear one to not wear one. But we need to be supportive of that. And lastly, I think whatever decision you're going to make tonight, what day it is, we're going to find people on both sides of it that are going to be upset, they're going to be scared, they're going to be thrilled, they're going to be excited, frustrated. So just to keep that in mind and be respectful of everybody's feelings and understand that and let people kind of make their own decisions.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any questions?
Joe,
Thought I
Yes.
was getting away easy.
Not with this group, no.
so under the guidelines that have been updated recently and the new updates, so quarantine, the only time we would have, someone would need to quarantine is if that individual tested positive. Is that correct?
Correct.
We're not doing
Well,
that.
there's technically two. One is if you tested positive, or there has been a few occasions where if a kid's sick and a parent, if they have the symptoms that according to our screening algorithm, says that they need to have a COVID test. Some parents have decided that they don't want to. They don't want to test their child. So the option in that case would be to essentially fulfill that 5-day quarantine, and they can return to school
Okay.
without doing the test. But those would be the only two
Similar to the flu.
examples.
Okay, so we'd have far fewer individuals, it's likely that we'd have far fewer people being quarantined than we have in the past when we had to do, when we were doing contact tracing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It'd be much less than like back in the fall.
Yeah,
The only new example would be a close contact at home.
Yeah.
If a family were to tell me that.
Okay.
Yeah, then since we are no longer universally masked, those close contacts at home would have to quarantine as well.
and then you said something about after you get, if you've had COVID, it's recommended now that you continue to wear a mask for, you're cleared to come back into the into public after 5 days, but
Yeah.
they're recommending you wear a mask for days 6 through 10.
Yeah, you can come back on day 6 if, in general, you're feeling better, your symptoms are improving, and you haven't had a fever for 24 hours.
Mhm.
So if you get to day 6 and you still meet any, then we take it a day at a time.
Right.
But in any event, at day 10, through day 10, you're
Yeah.
recommended or required to wear a mask.
So we
per
still would,
guidelines.
be requiring people to wear masks when they're coming out of COVID and wanting to come back, but symptom-free and wanting to come back to school.
Yeah, and there was some discussion with the school nurses, and I know this, between the high school and the elementary and the middle school, there's differences with Google Classrooms and Zooming and whatnot, so that would be more of the
Yeah.
people behind me question, but they can, whether or not you want to mandate it, give parents an option. If you have a parent that is absolutely opposed to masking, do they have the option then to just keep their kid out for 10 days?
Yes.
How is that all, I don't know how that works with schoolwork and stuff, which
Yeah.
is why I said, but. We are, the question was asked at the meeting yesterday too, like, can I tell a teacher? Can I say, Paul has to wear a mask until March 10th?
Uh-huh.
And the answer was yes. I can't tell everybody why. Everybody knows why, but it's considered a need-to-know information, so I can say that piece.
You
of
could
it.
say Paul needs to wear a mask, but not, you're not going to say Paul has COVID and therefore he needs to wear a mask, or
Right.
just had COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, between I'm gonna say Paul is out till this day, and then Paul, I mean, people are.
People are
they
going to
know.
draw conclusions or
Yeah.
make assumptions, yeah.
Right, especially now where there's only one reason that you're out of school, versus
Yeah.
in the fall, could be multiple.
I don't know. Still got lots of reasons to be in school.
You could have a you
Well,
could have a family member
Yeah.
at home too
Yeah.
that is,
Yeah.
that is, immunocompromised, and so you might be wearing a mask at
Mm.
school as well.
And Joe, I did just want to say how much we appreciate yours and Michelle's and Jackie's work. We've heard a lot of communication from you guys since the beginning of the week, and it's very obvious that you guys have been very thoughtful about what the best next steps would be, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that, Beth.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to hear from administrators.
Fighting over who's
Who
gonna
goes
go first.
first?
Yeah.
So yeah, at the high school level, we're ready to move whatever the decision is made tonight. We had a faculty meeting yesterday. We talked a little bit about it, and they're waiting for an email from me after this board meeting as to what the decision is. So whether it be tomorrow they start or Wednesday, I think that we're ready and we'll support the faculty and staff and students that continue to mask.
Mr. Clifford, do you think it would be a challenge to start tomorrow with no masks?
When you said that earlier, I was trying to think of any challenges. I really can't think of any other than supporting the kids that, and faculty staff that decide to keep masks on. I really can't think of any.
So what about getting the information out to families tonight? I mean, I'm just trying to think about the difference between rushing that tonight and then maybe taking the weekend and having that time to
Sure.
start on Monday.
Yeah.
I
I mean, if it were tomorrow, then it starts with an email to the whole student body from me, to
Yeah.
my faculty and staff.
Okay,
We could shoot something out to parents too, a text and an email.
Okay.
That's usually how, if something is rushed, that's usually how we communicate.
I do have a feeling word would spread pretty quick.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think, yes, I think there's lots of people tuned in.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
They're home popping popcorn and just waiting.
I have some real concerns with just going to that quickly, especially for parents who will want their children to wear masks. They need time to communicate that with teachers, especially with younger kids. If they have a parent or a grandparent, or if their child is medically fragile and their child needs to be continuing to wear a mask, how are we going to handle that? How are we going to make sure that parents and teachers have enough time to communicate and come up with a plan to make sure that that can happen and that it causes a minimum of disruption? And how are we going to figure out, how much responsibility do the parent and child have? How much responsibility does the school have? How much responsibility does the teacher have? And does that differ depending on the child's age?
I can tell you what we did.
I think there's a lot of
About
things
that.
to discuss about that.
Yep, Ms. Kane, would you mind chiming in there?
Sure, so Hancock decided to switch to masking optional over vacation. So, kids came back on the Monday after break, and people knew, and I would say that, what you heard in terms of estimates was dead on. We had about a third of students and staff that were still masking for a variety of reasons, not necessarily because they had COVID, but because of, someone that they live with that's immunocompromised or a variety of reasons. And there weren't any, we didn't have any problems at all. In Lemoyne, the vote was made to make the transition on a Monday night, and that's a K-8 school. So what we did was, we made the change, but we had one school day where the principal was able to then meet with every classroom and just, again, make it clear that we support your choice to do whatever is best for you, and that some teachers would continue to mask and some students would. And then it went into effect at the end of the day, after that school day. The memo went home. We sent it through emergency messenger. I mean, we can send it a variety of ways here. And at the bottom, there was a checkbox, which is totally optional, but if there were parents that wanted their kids to continue to mask, they indicated that on the form so that the teachers then knew, and heard it from a parent, I need my child to mask. If we don't ask why, it doesn't matter to us why. That way we at least know. And so, and it worked fine. We had a great, the next day afterwards, everybody came, the transition was made, same thing. It was a range of students and staff that were and weren't wearing masks, and it was fine, actually. And there would be zero tolerance for any bullying that would have to do with anything around masking. That's just it.
Yeah.
It
So,
just won't be tolerated.
no. So at Lemoyne, you did have that day buffer, though?
We just had a day.
One
We
day,
voted that
okay.
Monday night, we met the same time you did. We put the message out right away. And then the next day that parents came back, it was in effect, and they could send that paper back to us so that we knew who it was. And it gave the principal a day to meet with students. I'm not saying they necessarily need to do that here, but certainly it would give, the school day tomorrow. I mean, I know EHS has an assembly in the morning, and I'm not sure about EEMS, but it gives us a chance to communicate with students and prepare in that way, at least. While still, you have a county that's gone yellow, so it's sort of the balance of,
Yep.
meeting what you have essentially in documentation that you would do, but also giving people that time, which is fair, absolutely.
Yeah, great, thank you. All right, Mrs. Bowles?
Hello. Couple of thoughts. First, at HCTC, and that's what I will speak to, staff are ready. They're ready for us to be optional, whether it's tomorrow or it's next Wednesday. And one of them said to me, I'm going to be nervous no matter what day you do this, whether it's tomorrow or it's next Wednesday. My nerves are going to be the same. We've been prepping for this for 2 years, for this moment. So whatever you say, we'll be ready. So that you know, at HCTC, Sumner went optional over vacation, so they started on Monday. And those kids have come every day to HCTC masked. They have not given us a hard time. They've been fine. I think that for high school kids, they do what they need to do for the most part. So whatever you decide, whether it's tomorrow or next Wednesday, the kids are ready. I think the other big thing to think about is the observation that staff have had that kids this week have shown hope that this is coming. And I think kids and families have talked about this over the last few days more than we probably realize. And so I am confident that if the change is made for tomorrow at HCTC, we are ready and kids will be okay. And that includes kids that choose to continue to mask and my staff that will continue to mask. They trust each other as professionals, that they will have each other's backs. They trust that kids will be kind. That's what we've taught them to be. And they've been resilient for 2 years. I mean, what we do tonight and how we decide, they're going to watch us and how we handle it. And if we show panic and anger, they're going to. So as was mentioned, I think that if we handle this with grace and respect, kids are going to follow. They have for 2 years. They're going to follow our lead. And I think that is the biggest takeaway I have from this week is kids have hope. They're excited. They left today wondering, can we come to school tomorrow without our mask? They desperately want to see their teachers and their friends. So no matter what you decide, whether it's that it's tomorrow or it's a dismissal tomorrow or it's next Wednesday, it doesn't matter. We will scoop those kids up tomorrow, mask or no mask, and we're going to keep educating them and loving on them. That's our job, and that's what we're hired to do. So I ask that you trust us to do that, no matter what day you decide to pull the masks off. So,
Thank you.
questions? Oh, and I did want to add, JT Green, I did reach out to all the high school principals, because of course, not everyone is making this decision tonight. So in talking to the other high school principals that sent to HCTC, as they have, they will continue to follow our rules. So when we had optional masking in the fall, their high schools are going to allow them to be optional when they're at HCTC. So if a sending school district requires masks still tomorrow and we are optional, they will allow those kids to make that choice when they're in our building. And I would also say that the principals know and are ready tonight at our sending high schools to do any communication that we may need to do. And also JT Green, I checked with him this afternoon after Mr. Clifford and I talked. And they've been optional masks all week and they still have not had any cases. So that, I hope, brings some people that are nervous a little bit of relief that this downward trend we're seeing is not false hope, hopefully, knock on wood.
Wonderful.
But I thought it was important. I thought it was important that you know that that's a high school who's been doing that all week, and they're still not seeing cases. So,
Great.
question?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
It's very nicely put.
Mr. Wood?
Rock, paper, scissors.
I know, right?
I
I
saw
saw
it
it. Who's going next?
I tried. Travis Wood, principal at 5-8, and right now, I am gonna say that half my staff, I believe, would be in masks regardless of which way we go, and half will be thrilled that they don't have to if they choose not to. Students, I'm seeing the same thing that Amy just talked about. Students are like, Mr. Wood, do you think tomorrow? And so, I mean, I understand having some time. As far as signage goes, our signs are on our front doors only, over your nose and that kind of stuff, which would leave, because it doesn't say anything mask required, it says optional, right? And my assumption is if they're wearing them optionally, they should be wearing them correctly. So, I do want to point out that I haven't thought about how to get notified at grades 5 through 8 that a parent wants a student to remain in a mask. But we already have had the conversations. I did lunch duty today, which was great, by the way. And when I was talking to the kiddos, I was like, you know, there's going to be some of your friends that want to stay in a mask. And like 3 of the boys at the table said, I'm going to be in mine. You know, and one of the other boys is, I can't wait to get this thing off, you know. So they already know each other because they've been talking about this, as you've heard tonight, for a while. When it happens, what am I going to do, you know? So that's one piece that I hadn't thought about, is how are the parents going to notify me in grades 5-8. So,
I'd be happy to share that document with.
yeah, that would be awesome, yeah, yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Mrs. Clifford?
So I was
speaking of lunch
strategic
duty
in
now.
asking Travis to go first, just so you know. There's been a lot of conversation among teachers, some among students, right? About it this week. And I just sent another group text out to some staff that I have there on the leadership team, and I said, do we need time to plan? You know, am I missing something? Should I be overly concerned? And I'm going to be honest, there was an overwhelmingly, no, we don't. That's why I was waiting. I was trying to hear back from everyone. So for me, I understand that, but I'm going to be honest, there are some kids that are going to struggle, you know, and I want to make sure that I am mindful of that and be able to support them, the same that Mr. Clifford said and Mrs. Bowles and Mr. Wood, that we need to be mindful of that. But I'll be honest, I have mindful conversations with students all the time from kindness starts with me. We refer to that in any aspect. Horseplay in the lunch line, you know, pushing or throwing snowballs at recess. I mean, we're having those conversations, and I think we'll include having those conversations. I mean, I would plan to visit all the classrooms tomorrow, to be able to have conversations in person with kids, greeting them at the door, getting the notification out to parents, and making sure that we're supporting parents in their choice of that. But one of the concerns that I do have is just managing that for teachers. I don't want teachers, especially of the K-4 students, to be, you know, felt like that's their main job is policing that, because their jobs, they're the experts in teaching and learning. And I think that's really important, and that we will do our best to support that choice for parents and be able to support them in that. But just know that if it's a continued issue, that it would be a contact home from me and from parents and all of those things. So I think that's really important to say. But I think that, to be honest, I think that the majority of the staff is ready. We've had conversations all week as soon as, you know, as soon as 18 was on the news, as soon as Oakland made their choice. I mean, I think it's a conversation that's been happening a lot with parents and students. Any questions for me?
On an unrelated note, lunch
Here we go.
lunch duty, and my daughter loved it.
Oh, she did? Yay!
Yes,
It was very fun.
For those that didn't see the picture online, Mrs. Clifford was the Cat in the Hat at lunch the other day, reading a story.
Yeah, I read
believe.
different books at different grade levels
Oh, it
from
was
Dr.
wonderful.
Seuss. Yeah, it was a lot of, it was pretty much the best day of the year, I'm going to be honest. Besides the first day of school, of course, but yeah,
they
it was
loved
a
it.
pretty fun day.
Yeah.
But, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
April, actually, can I ask you a question? I don't want
Yeah,
to put you on the
yeah,
spot, and this
no.
really isn't fair, but I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I have the youngest kids, so I understand this is more complicated.
So I know that we all want to start tomorrow morning
Mm-hmm.
without masks. My kids do. We're all very excited.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think it would make the transition easier if we started on Monday?
I don't think it's going to make it easier.
Okay.
I just think that, you know, it would give me time that the things I'm going to do tomorrow,
Yeah.
I'm going to still do tomorrow, whether we're maskless tomorrow or maskless Monday.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to really change what I do, because I think my day is going to be filled with doing that, and then I
Okay.
would do an updated communication to parents.
Okay.
But I think that it's not going to change what I do tomorrow. But, you know, it could go either way, Kelly. I understand you guys wanted to be cautious and mindful in
Yeah.
planning, and I'm okay with that. If that's the motion of the board, we can do that, and I can do that mindful planning tomorrow. And then if you make a decision tonight, then I could still do that mindful stuff tomorrow.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not really going to change what we're doing. It'll just give me a day to do that without the mask, you know, with
Yep.
with students all in mask still.
Yeah.
So it's not really going to change what I do or how I talk to kids or the message I'm going to send.
Okay.
And I do have a feeling that those that are really very concerned about their kids being in masks tomorrow are likely going to your email will explode with those because
So-
they'll
so
let you know.
The other
so.
thing too is, kids change plans all the time.
Yeah.
My kid's riding this bus today, he's going to the Y today, they're doing those things. I mean, just communicate with your teacher that you'd like your child to mask and, you know, that we'll work on that and we'll get that data together and have a formalized document to be able to support parents in keeping all kids safe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And do other administrators, do you feel the same? Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Do we have any more discussion among the board?
I just think that we really need to talk about the attitude coming from home transfers to your kid at school. We are going to be obviously going maskless, are optional, and I cannot say this enough. We have a zero bullying policy. We have to make sure that these kids are going to go to school and not be singling out students who are choosing to wear masks. And because this is not just a COVID issue. This is, you know what? You know, you don't know when you're suddenly going to have a chronically ill child at home and things, I mean, it rocks your world. And you don't know what a child might be facing and why they might need to wear that mask. We hope after this that if somebody has an issue, whether it's a grandparent that's so very sick that you can't bring flu home, or this child is going to school and trying to mainstream, but is very sick and they need to wear a mask for whatever reason, we want those people to feel comfortable making that decision and respected for making that decision as much as we respect people for not wearing a mask, because that's personal decision. People who wear a mask, that's their personal decision, and they need to be respected, and they need to not be bullied for that. And they need to not be pointed at, singled out, doing all those things that, you know, microaggressions are still aggressions. And we need to make sure that that is very clear. That we have an expectations that kids will show up and that behavior will be in check.
I really think that it doesn't make sense to just rush it for a few extra days. I think if we're going to follow the CDC guidelines, follow the CDC guidelines, but at least give parents and the teachers who are concerned the weekend to plan and have those conversations with their kids, with their families about, you know, if I have my kids that need to wear their mask, it's going to be hard for them if all of their friends are not wearing their mask. But if, you know, if I'm sick or if they have a medical condition, I think they deserve at least the weekend to have those conversations with their kids.
Anyone else?
I think that'll make it a lot easier for teachers too, if parents have that time to have those conversations with kids so that they can really communicate that.
All right, would someone like to make a motion?
Are we going to hear at all from the public before are we going to make the motion and then hear from them during discussion?
We'll make a motion first and then we'll
Okay.
have discussion.
I'll make a motion to go mask optional on Monday.
Do we have a second?
Can I, it hasn't been seconded yet, so I'm wondering, Tara, if you'd be willing to make a motion and to be mask optional at the end of the school day tomorrow, which is effectively Monday, but gives.
But then it gives the high school.
The evening activities the opportunity to be optional.
Would it be just at the high school or everywhere?
I think it would be district-wide, but I don't know that there are any extracurricular activities happening anywhere else, but there could be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Paul. I hadn't thought of this, but the school that Ellsworth will be playing is Yarmouth, and they go masking optional starting on Monday. And I haven't seen anything indicating as of now that the cross center is changing.
Right.
So at the cross center, masks are still required. So it would mean either way, whether we have a gold ball or not, which we're going to have a gold ball because we don't want to jinx it, but
That's a given.
at least when they came back to the school tomorrow night, regardless, you know, the photos, all of those pieces, if you're going to switch it on Monday, if we could switch it after school, that's one piece of, I've heard about. Not that the change is about sports or anything like that. I don't mean to, be flippant about it, but,
I would
it's a
like to
pretty
give them
rare
that.
event,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
It,
Right. No, I think that makes a lot of sense for the
Right.
pictures and.
Great.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have
An amended.
amended
Well,
motion?
it doesn't, I don't think it needs to be amended if it hasn't been
Seconded.
seconded
True.
yet. So if you
Okay.
want to
Yep.
just restate the motion.
I will restate the motion to go mask optional after school on Monday?
After school on Friday.
Tomorrow.
After school on Friday, yes, that's what I meant. I'm sorry,
Okay.
that's what I meant.
Okay,
I misspoke.
thank you. Do we have a
Yes.
second?
I'll second that.
Great. All right, do we need to have discussion?
We may as well.
I think
Yeah.
we have a couple of kids who
Okay.
have
Yeah,
prepared
okay.
and.
doesn't talk.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
Justin,
they make
come on
some-
up.
Like to talk. The kids would really love for this to happen tomorrow morning. I really think that this could, it really.
And he was very excited. As soon as you said comment, he was ready to go. Yes, we want to see your face.
Okay.
You got this.
Got this.
Whoa. Oh, my name is Justin, and I'm here. I am in the fourth grade. I am seeing my friends at other schools being able to take their mask off, and I am here to ask why. Why can we take our mask off? It's been over 2 years, and I have been very patient, but I do not want to wear those masks ever again. So I am here today to ask for the mask to be gone, so that tomorrow I can go into my school for the first time without a mask. I have not had a choice, and I would like to have a choice, and I would really like to be able to breathe again, and nobody ask me how I feel, and I feel sad. And when I wear the mask, I feel sad, and that I can't breathe, and they are dirty and gross, and they just give me headaches and give me Disney. Trying to do gym with the mask on made me feel really sick. I do not wear a mask for even one more day. So please vote to make this day and today. God bless America. Land the free!
Good job. Good job.
Please don't make me wait another day.
Is there
Justin
anyone?
waited all week to talk today on Thursday, just so that you know, right?
Yes.
We
Good
talked a
job,
lot about
Justin.
it, that we had an opportunity on Thursday, yeah.
Yes, very
Good job.
What a good reader.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Oh.
Yep.
I'll save the best one.
Hi, I'm Casey Hardwick. You all know me already. Couple things that I want to say is when Maine CDC changed their guidelines, the entire state, with exception of 3 counties, was red. They plan to go mask optional in a red status. And as of today, the entire state is now yellow, not just Hancock County, the entire state. So I think that changing to optional masking first thing tomorrow morning is warranted. These kids have been waiting. I've had teachers tell me that, reiterating what they've said, they don't need prep time. We've had 2 years of prep time, and if people have not had that conversation about what their expectations are for their children and whether they're wearing a mask at school, then they have made a mistake. You've had plenty of time to have that discussion. All of our older children know how to follow the rules, right? So I think that every student in this school should have the option of not wearing a mask tomorrow if they want. And to note, I am actually more worried about the maskers bullying the unmaskers than I am vice versa. Thank you.
Next, you're up.
Hello. Just, I'm a little nervous. Anyway,
Could you state your name,
got
please?
this.
I'm Dylan Flelling. I'm a junior at Ellsworth High School, and never liked writing, never liked paper. I have been at Ellsworth for 6 years. I've loved every bit of it. The Ellsworth schools have been a lot of fun, especially through the middle school and the high school. I believe that with the 2 years that I've been here with masks on, I've been feeling very sad because of all the cool things that have been happening even before COVID that new students to Ellsworth haven't been able to experience, especially at the high school. I find it very upsetting that a lot of the freshmen and the current sophomores, they haven't been able to experience the same thing that I, a junior, has been able to experience because I've been here before COVID. It's very sad to see, like, for example, Christmas time, I believe there was a party thrown for everyone in all the classes, and so far those freshmen, those sophomores, they haven't been able to experience that, and it's very kind of sad to see that. And yeah, and I know that some of you expressed concerns about bullying for people without masks, with the masks. Again, with the 6 years I've been here, look at me. I've not been bullied once for anything about me, and I'd say I'm a pretty ripe target, seeing, you know, my body is kind of a little overweight, just a tad, just a little bit. But I've never even, in my 6 years, have I been bullied here. I think it'd be great for Friday that we remove the mask. It'll be a very happy day, saying like, Fridays are always a student's favorite day because you get to leave a little early. Why not make that day a little happier with leaving entering without masks? And I believe that's all. Any questions?
You didn't need your paper.
Yeah. I never liked paper. Give me cuts.
Good job, buddy.
Dylan, you're fine just the way you are. There's nothing to bully there, so.
Absolutely not. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay.
Are they waiting for me? I'll say something really quick. You know I couldn't not say something. I do want to say that I've never seen more hope and joy in the children and just having that feeling of being able to go into that school and be able to enjoy everybody's smiles. And my child had no time to prepare for a mask being put on him at all. He was just told, you're going to be in a mask, and it's been 2 years later. So I please ask you to consider those that they didn't have any cares for him and still not having any cares for the children. And my son has lots of friends that also wear masks. He doesn't quite understand it, but he's okay with that. And that's what is a beautiful thing. And I do encourage everyone to have a great day tomorrow, maskless. Thank you.
Any more discussion among the board?
I just have a logistical question.
Yeah.
So if the motion that's out there right now is for optional at the end of the day on Friday,
Yes.
if that does not pass, then we would go back and make another motion.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify the logistics.
Or could it be amended again?
I think it could be amended again if Tara wanted to, but if she did not, and so Paul would have to rescind his second, then she would have to want to amend it, and if she doesn't, then we would vote on it, and then.
Easier
another.
just to have a new motion.
A new motion, yes. Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor for the motion that's on the table? All those opposed? Okay. Do we have a new motion?
I'll make a motion that we go maskless tomorrow. I'm a person who has very big hearing issues. I need to see people's mouths. And when you're trying to guess what people are saying, the facial expressions add so much into figuring out what they're actually saying. And, you know, I see such an advantage going without, and I do feel like when we made this rule, the CDC had a different, a different matrix And we were always under the impression when we made that this, once we would drop, we wouldn't even have to meet to re-vote. I mean, we're in the yellow. We've had time to get to this point, to say, you know, we're gonna be maskless soon. I think we're okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second
Wait,
that.
wait, what's the motion?
Oh.
That was a long motion.
Sorry. We go maskless tomorrow.
So I will
So-
second that.
Can we
And then we'll have
phrase it
discussion.
in a way that,
Masks.
because we're not going maskless.
Right, I'm so sorry,
So it would be masks
Optional.
Optional, starting tomorrow morning.
Yes.
And I will second that motion.
Any discussion?
I think if we're gonna follow the CDC guidelines, then we wait till Wednesday. I think going mask optional at the end of Friday is a good compromise, but I think people need that time to plan and talk to their kids. I think that we owe it to the people that are worried, that are concerned about their health, and to give them just that little bit of time, and to give teachers and parents a little bit of time to communicate if they are going to ask that their kids still wear masks.
And I hear you on that, Tara. I mean, I have family members who are extremely high risk, and that 1/3, I have 3 kids, and one of my 3 kids is planning on leaving his mask on, and that's fine. But I think we've heard from our administrators who've said they've been having these conversations. I do think that there are lots of homes that have been having these conversations. And I think that our administrators are prepared to greet kids in the morning, and those kids who are coming in with a mask to make sure that the kids who are coming without a mask are feeling excited and comfortable, and the kids who are coming with a mask are excited and comfortable. And I think and not that I'm encouraging anyone to skip school, but tomorrow is a half day, and specifically at the high school level, there's an assembly in the morning. So you figure, if I as a parent felt very strongly about needing the weekend to prepare, I as a parent can make the choice, like I said, I'm not encouraging anyone to skip school, but I as a parent can make the choice to say, I'm gonna keep my child home today so that we can have this conversation and feel prepared for Monday. And I do, and I don't want it to be political, but I hear what Sarah is saying, and that we didn't necessarily have time to prepare for the coming back to school. Everything just kind of happened and evolved, and I feel like everything is happening and evolving, and I hear where you're coming from, though, because like I said, I have some decisions to make personally as to whether or not my kids will be able to be around their grandmother in a mask optional place, but I have to think of the broad, not just my own.
But I don't think that one day makes that much difference in that respect. I think giving people the time to prepare is worth it, because you're not going to have all the issues that would come up if we just had that weekend to prepare.
So Tara, this kept me up all night. I thought about this, and I was thinking the exact same thing this morning when I got up. I'm like, okay, so I think that we just wear masks to school tomorrow, and then after school, we'll say no masks, so we can have our celebrations after the boys win. But after hearing from the principals, I think they feel that they're good to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have faith that they've got it.
Right. And as I said, the numbers were so, the writing was on the wall for so long. You know, I've checked that CDC website 3 times a day. Those numbers should have been updated a week ago.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when we made that decision, the matrix was different. When we made that decision, coming to a point with so few cases and no hospitalizations, I fully believed we thought at the time we would not be still wearing masks with no hospitalizations and so few numbers. And it just goes to show that we need to, as a district, make our own disaster plan that doesn't necessarily depend on CDC input because the CDC changed lanes too many times during these last 2 years. We need things that are that really reflect what's happening in the community, not what's speculative, but what is actually happening. And we need a matrix that our people can look at and understand and say, okay, well, look at these numbers. We're heading into an area that looks like we could go maskless because it can't all be about COVID. You know what? A lot of people don't even know that like 4 years ago about the CDC came in and grabbed all the measles vaccine in the entire area because of something that got off on a boat. You know, things happen like that and we don't always know about it. But if we had a matrix in effect that said, if we suddenly see, you know, a 2% of the population of Ellsworth sick with any particular thing, we should go, you know, with masks. Then we're not waiting on politics to play a part. And that's why CDC aside, like, yeah, the CDC said Wednesday, but there's a lot of reasons here that make me say, you know what, we don't just follow the CDC. This is what's right for our school, and this is why we need to go, you know, and start doing our own thing.
All right. Any more comments regarding the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
We will, I was not wanting to rush anybody, but
You
we're
guys can
close
be
to that
dismissed.
time. It's 7, you know, I think if principals can help me, we could do an emergency messenger notification unless you think it's too late. I mean, usually, 7:30 is pushing it. I think we could get that right out at least.
So we have no other item, right?
And get
So we
that on
could-
our, so we'll get that information out right away.
Yeah.
at least to help. Okay.
Having no other items on the agenda, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Having no further business, I'm making a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Tara? Okay. Discussion? All those in favor? All right.
Thank you.